Grebien, Señor Alcalde, welcome to Latino Public Radio.
Good morning. It's always great to be here. I should say hola, and it's great to have the opportunity to speak with your viewers, so thank you.
Well, gracias. Why are you running for re-election?
I'll try to keep it short. First, I really enjoy the job and the steps we've been able to make over the last 14 years in changing the city around. And there's still a lot of work to be done. These are difficult times, as they always are, but I feel very strongly that the leadership and the team that I put together, working collectively with the council and most of the school committee members, we've been able to move the city forward. So I want to continue it. We've got some really good things, economic drivers. We've got the stadium that'll be open up next year, and we'll be working on the housing across the way. We're going to be starting to build and construct a new unified high school. So there are a lot of things that I want to make sure that happen, and I want to continue to deliver the quality of life services to the residents.
More important part is quality of life. You talk about housing, education, progress with the business. Let's start with the stadium. You say going to open next year.
Yep.
What are going to be the economic impact when the stadium open?
So the first economic impact will be the activity. It won't be big dollars. There'll be food and beverage, and the activity and the draw into the community. You will see the amenities like the waterfront will have access on one side of the river and the bike path. And then we're working on the bridge that's going to connect the other side. And phase 1B, which we're going to start rolling out and designing with the developers, will be all the housing. So you'll see some small retail, restaurants, active zone with the stadium the first year, and then you'll see all of the additional development over the next couple of years after that. So that's the smaller impact. The bigger impact is with all the development, new revenue coming in to the city.
Okay, what's going to happen with the Apex building?
So right now, Apex building property, it's not only the building, but there are the 5 properties, plus the waterfront and what we call in Pawtucket the old Manning and Heffron area. So we're out to an RFQ right now, which is a request for qualifications, looking at asking developers to come in and give us some concepts. We as a city, and it's owned by the PRA, the Pawtucket Redevelopment Agency, in partnership, and the council have said, here's our criteria, here's what we want to see no less than. It's not a design, it's more of the economic benefit, the impact to the city. And with those developers, it's towards the end of September is the due date that they will come in, and we're hoping to get some multiple developers in and do some pencil sharpening and try to work with one and roll out a plan. City's high level, we want to see something that's complementary to the stadium. We want to see something that brings more activity into the downtown, that connects the rail and the breweries in that active zone. But we also need housing. We're looking at both market rate and affordable and a mixed use. So we've laid that on the table saying, here's a concept. Developers, we'll work with you, tell us what you want to put there and what we can work with you on.
You talk about housing with the train station stopping here in the city, the stadium. What about gentrification for the community?
There's both, and that's a big part of it that you want to make sure that you don't. You want to have a balance. We have a very high percentage of low to moderate income. It doesn't register the statewide registry, but we do. And what we're trying to do is we don't want to push anybody out. So we've created some, in certain areas, Pawtucket and Central Falls have put a joint planning commission together to make sure that in the cone and thread area around the rail that we're not gentrifying. When the developers coming in, we're working with them to bring in some additional state dollars because a lot of state money out there for housing to do that. One quick example is the Dexter Street Commons. We call in Pawtucket the old Toppies, those that are old in the room, and then it was Cala Fruit, but the property right next to the ice rink. Private developer purchased that land, purchased some property off the city, just got all of his financial capital stack and incentives together, his private money, and you'll see a groundbreaking in the next 2 or 3 months. It's about 140 units, and they're all affordable and mixed use. So we're trying to get back on track. We know we have to bring some new revenue in, but we also don't want to displace people. And with the incentives, working with a lot of the nonprofit groups, we're trying to match those up.
Now let's talk about education.
Yeah.
Unified High School. What's going to happen with the two old buildings, Shea and Tolman?
So there's really no definite plans right now. When we talk high level, the city sees members on the council, a good friend of mine, the former council president, John Barry, for years, we've talked about his concept is putting high-end condos at the Tolman. Because, again, we want to be careful for gentrification, but the higher end we bring in, the more tax revenue we do, so we don't have to keep going back out to the taxpayers. But maybe see some sort of economic development opportunity there. Housing is what we think would go there. Again, but the market's going to drive that. The Shea building could potentially be continued use of the schools. I won't bore everybody, but we have to be careful, working very closely with the superintendent and the school committee.
Yes.
There's been federal dollars put into a lot of these buildings, so there's certain requirements that you can and can't do. You have to pay some of the money back if there's so many years. And Shea has had some recent dollars, as recently in the last 4 or 5 years, some money going in, so we have to be careful. But we see that as potential housing, potential reuse for the schools, and a potential affordable mixed unit there.
No, I like the idea, high-end apartments in Tolman, as long as it's a partnership with the city. Because if you give it to a private developer, even the taxes going to come in, the city need to have some kind of control or some properties that they can bring some income. What about the elderly community? What are we doing for them? We still have a very high elderly population living in their own homes. We currently have our senior center. We have a staff over there. They work very closely with all of the state agency and federal agencies. We're trying to do a lot of the home, I'll say care, not so much medical, but support. We provide a lot of services, busing, bringing them into the senior center. So we have a really strong team over there and activities for them. We have a lot of tax incentives. I shouldn't say a lot. We have some tax incentives for property owners to keep them in their home and the services there. One of the things we're focused in on is City Hall. We've talked about this for many times. We need to move out, get out of City Hall, no matter what the next use is. And part of that, we've bought a building on Freight Street, and we will be putting the senior center. We're going to build a new senior, well, I shouldn't say build. It's an existing building. It's one level. We'll be retrofitting that area for the seniors. I sit down bi-monthly with the senior director of senior services, and it's busing. It's more dollars. How do we get it programs? A lot of social and emotional support, so we put some APA dollars in. So it's trying to support the state initiative, keeping folks in their house but providing those services. What about safety, quality of life, how the police department is engaging the community?
As we all know, we watch nationwide, and we have our challenges in Pawtucket, right? We're a city of 72,000 plus, and we have our crime and we have our issues. We have a very strong police department right now. We're at about 145 police officers. We're out doing recruiting. Our goal will be to get to, over the next 2 years, try to be, and it's hard because retirements come in, but our goal is to be about 175 from 2 years from now, and investing in that. We have a great CPU unit, so we have about 6 officers and a community police unit working on the streets, partnering with other communities for, I won't say there's major gangs, but there are gang issues, gang-related things, drugs, so they're out there. Having said that, the police also provide the services. We want to make sure that our community feels safe, and they do a great job providing the safety. So they're out on the roads. We have 7, 8 police officers out in cars on a regular basis responding, but we need to grow that. And as the federal money comes in, it's focusing on police, and we're trying to take advantage of that and not put all the burden on the taxpayers. So we have a very, our crime is down overall, but, we read about the 1 or 2 issues that are serious, and they're out there trying to address them and get those criminals off the streets.
What about the teenagers? We have any programs after the school or places that they can go and entertain, have fun, and stay out of crime?
Yeah, there's not enough, number one, right? So we have a lot of joint partnerships with YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club. We, in the city, through great work of Director Mary Perella, we have a great after-school programs, different, and she brings in all those different programs at different levels. Also, what was very helpful in the last several years is we have SROs, the community resource officers, in the schools. And we have them in all of our high schools and all of our junior highs right now. Not there really for law enforcement, more there to build the relationships, because we see that works. The police respect the kids and the kids respect the police officer, and they build that. So we have those. We have a great program with Larry Halloway, and we do the after midnight basketball in the summer league. Okay. We have, like I said, many after-school programs. The city, through the recreation department, we'll have tennis programs, after school and on the weekends. We've created a lot of internships, trying to bring a lot of the high school students in, working at City Hall and the city jobs, but we clearly have more to do.
With the recent two high school shooting, and you say SRO in the schools,
yeah.
What approach we're going to take in the next couple of weeks to make sure that everybody feels safe in school?
So the additional stuff we do is we work very closely. I say we, but the chief works very closely and reports it to me with the superintendent. So we are looking about putting some additional, especially in the newer building. It's hard in some of the older buildings. Police are there, number one. We have police very responsive in the areas, driving around. We're out in doing neighborhood meetings. We have the police recruitment program. The junior recruitment program that we're bringing folks in, but really it's putting the resources in the schools where we need them. So you might see a police officer or two, and again, it's not for the intimidation, because I know there's a concern out there, and it's not about the intimidation, about the protection. And then it's working at where the superintendent believes those needs are. One of the things quickly we're investing in the technology as well. They're building all the safety, investing in the buildings to build the safety to get into the schools, to make sure they're safe so people can't get in. They do the lockdowns and their trainings with the students in case of some serious shootings and what's happening around the world. So we do all of those things, but we're also, like I said, investing in some of the technology. There's different types of, we work in partners with. In fact, there's a program in front of the school committee right now to put the cameras in the schools that the police have access. And there's a privacy issue and there's an ACLU concern, and it's legitimate. It's legitimate. So it's how do we get what we need without violating everybody's rights to balance that. So we see technology as a help as well.
You talk about community meeting, and you did, I believe, over 10 community meetings.
So
what are you laying there?
So quickly, we have 6 districts, and every year we had a couple of years off because of COVID, naturally. And we do at least one round in every community once a year. I try to do it twice to go out there. And it's just like knocking doors, right? We're in the campaign mode and we're knocking doors now. It's good to be out there and hear those things, because sometimes it's the simple things. My trash didn't get picked up, or we have an issue with somebody going down the one way, or parking. Those are the basic issues, right? People want to feel safe, and I think we really are. We have a great public safety. We have a big response with the fire. They want to feel safe with that, and we have some experts, and I'm not experts, there's some really great experience with the rescues out there. But when you look at it in the meetings and on the doors, because you hear the little things, right? My sign, there's a sign that's faded, or this stop sign, there's a lot of traffic. So those are the things that you hear. And a big thing is always like, listen, we appreciate the job that you do. They might not always agree with everybody, most people, but they like, keep my taxes low. And we've done that over the years, right? It's like, we want all these services, and we all get it, right? We want, pristine services at a reasonable cost. And I think over the last 14 years, working with the council, we've been able to balance that.
What about speeding in the city?
Speeding is a major, major issue. As you know, a few years ago, the city went to speed cameras to try to help us, because there's safety issues. There's a lot of speeding around the schools. They're in the neighborhoods. And what we're seeing now is the speed cameras are really working. The number of citations are down, which is great, right? Because everybody believes it's about the finances. That's a part of it, but the drive is really about safety and the kids and the schools. And so what you see now is they're slowing down around schools, but now they're trying to cut through the neighborhoods at a higher speed. So, we've kind of pushed it. And so we're using the technology, and I know people get concerned about that, but it works. The numbers show that, and the studies show that. But We're out there. People in the community have asked to do speed bumps. You hear that a lot because other communities do them. We as a city, previous to me and with me as the mayor and the council, we've chosen not to go that for many different reasons and liability issues. Yes. But it also doesn't work the best, right? It gets everybody thinking that it does. So we're out trying. We have our traffic department, both in the police and DPW, and we're looking at other sorts of speed reduction options. You talk about if you allow most people don't believe in it, it's hard to, but you talk to the professionals. If you narrow the street, and you got to balance it because you narrow the street by allowing people to park on both sides. Depending on the size of the street, the rescue has to get down in the fire truck. But narrowing the street slows traffic down. They have the bump outs, right? We put signs up, and there's probably tons of sign pollution in our community because we want to bring it to awareness. It really is trying to drive that home, the awareness of it. So,
what about children's? Any places that they can go have fun?
Yeah, I mean, we do. The city, before my time, and we've built on that. We have a lot of public space, a lot of green space, in all our communities, and we're trying to build more. We're trying to purchase in two different purchases, but a little over 9 acres down on from a Riverside Cemetery to do passive and recreation down there. We just worked out a deal in the Woodlawn section to do a dog park and some open. But we have some really great public spaces. We do programs. We start to see where, growing up, there was probably more of an activity or at the fields, or baseball and football. And we have three good football organizations in the Pawtucket, but sometimes the numbers dwindle. So the city is picking up more and more of those recreational sports to our recreational department because we want to give the kids the choices. But again, it's really making sure that we maintain our parks, and we're investing in a small park to make it a little more active for the seniors we were talking about. We're putting senior equipment in there. So it's those things that we do, and it's all about money, and I hate to sound that way. It's about trying to take and invest it in the right way possible.
You talk about those dog parks.
Yeah.
How many parks you have for the friendly?
Yeah, no, we have two. There's another field that they use. It's not officially a dog park, but we have 2.5. I'll say. We have 2 designated. One in Slater Park on that side, one side of the city, and in the Fairlawn, the Veterans Park, in the Fairlawn section on the other. We are now have a lease agreement in the Woodlawn section with a private owner, and we're going to be out there designing the dog park to connect with the Morley Field, doing a public walk connection out there. So we'll have 3.5, the unofficial one. So,
how's your administration doing with diversity?
So, honestly, we do not represent citywide workers, the folks the numbers that we have in our community. So, I say that I'm very conscious of that. I can tell you honestly, in the 14 years I've been here, that's changed dramatically. Our percentage is much better, but it clearly doesn't represent. We take that very serious. So we invested in a chief equity officer. We have a new HR director, and we're looking at different programs. We do better. We're doing better, I shouldn't say that, in police and fire in a recruitment process. Still find it challenging for I'll say the general city workers' jobs. With the chief equity officer, this started about a year and a half ago. Chachi's out in the community, in the schools, and we're trying to educate, for lack of better terminology, get those children involved or invested in, that there are good opportunities. I think over the years, we've talked about everybody needs to go to college. You don't. There's some really good jobs in the city of Pawtucket. We want to be supportive. We're doing everything we can to say we're open. We're not only saying it, but we're doing it the best we can, but we still have some ways to go.
Now, why the residents of the city of Pawtucket need to re-elect you?
I always ask them for their vote of confidence and their support. It's not that they need to. I'm hoping that they realize all the hard work in the 14 years where we've come. We've come from a financially unstable city where the state was potentially taking over. We have improved bond ratings. We're out investing in all our schools, the work that's being done, and I think people see that. We've invested in renovating, and this doesn't happen alone. This is a partnership with everybody. We've invested in our schools, we're investing in our parks, we invest in our roads, and I hope that people know that while it's not perfect, we've done a great job with the best resources we have. And so my ask to them is just to take a look at everything we've done, take a look at the candidates as we go through the primary and the general, and really take a look at the accomplishments. And I think we've been very accessible. So it's not that they need to reelect me. I'm asking them for their vote and for their support for another 2 years.
Very interesting. Bueno, Mayor Grebien, anything else that you want the community to know about you, the city?
Yeah. I think it's more about the city than more about me. And I talk about where we've gone, where we came from and where we come from. We talked about diversity. We look at this, we probably have the most diverse council and legislative elected body in my years, and with our support working together. I think that's important. I think you look at all of those investments and the commitments we have, but really it's about accessibility. And I want people to know, not me, but the government itself is responsive. It's not perfect, but we are more responsive, and we're there, and I want people to feel comfortable to call and ask questions. So thank you for the opportunity.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.